Good night, wherever you're watching from. I hope you're having a good night. Share the link, get into your Guyanese groups, wherever you are, whatever social media platform you have. Share the link. Welcome to Conversation with Rickford Burke. I'm Rickford Burke. Of course, I'm in New York. The time is now 9 o'clock here in New York. Whether you're watching from Senegal, West Africa, Europe, London, England, Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, United States, West Coast or East Coast, wherever you're watching from, I hope you're having a very good night. We have two very interesting topics tonight, very important issues to dissect. And with me will be the chairman of the new chairman, newly elected chairman of the People's National Congress, Reform, the largest opposition party in Guyana, Mr. Sherwin Holder, Sherwin Holder. And of course, he's a member of parliament from Essequibo. So we'll also talk about the Dartmouth protest for justice for the murder by the Guyana Police Force of businessman ORIN BOSTOM of Dartmouth Village, Essequibo Coast. So share the link. I'll be back in 60 seconds. Again, get onto all your platforms. YouTube, email, IG, Twitter, Facebook, Messenger, telephone, WhatsApp, wherever. Call your relatives and friends. Each one, tell 100. Conversation with Rickford Burke is on. Text me, let me know where you're watching from. All right. Thank you for sharing the link. I see you guys are doing that. Lots of you sharing the link. Keep sharing the link. Text me. Let me know where you're watching from. As I said, let me see. Let me see who's in the house. Barbados in the house. Trinidad and Tobago is in the house. Good night, Miss Glenn. Watching from Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening from Baltimore. Text me. Let me know where you're watching from. Come on, everybody. Everybody right now watching me. We have so far, wow, 2,200 people. We're on various platforms. We're on 3 pages on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And I'm not sure if we're on Instagram Live as yet, but we plan to do that. Watching from Queens, New York. Watching from Maryland, United States. Watching from Florida. Brenda Braffett, good night from Florida. Hope you're having a good time. Everybody stay safe. I have somebody here watching from Ohio. What city in Ohio that is? South Florida. Come on, y'all, give me the cities. Watching from Miss Jilks. Welcome to the program from New York City. I see the Bronx in the house. Boogie Down Bronx. Miss Wessels from California. Germany in the house. My buddy from Germany is watching. Netherlands. Um, Diamond East Bank, Demerara, Guyana. Texas, Houston, Texas. Hey, West Coast, Demerara, I'm seeing you. Renisha Cummings, I'm seeing you. Ryan Webster, Brooklyn in the house. Watching from the Boogie Down Bronx again, Miss Hines. Welcome to the show. Keep sharing the link, everybody. Share the link. Let's get this audience going. Good night from Georgia. Stone Mountain, Georgia. I'm seeing you in the house. Syracuse, New York. Miss Asana, Syracuse, New York. Miss Graves Andy from Linden. Wow. Somebody watching from China. Wow. China in the house. I just saw the Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you for watching. Kitty, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis. Antigua. Where in Antigua you watching from, sir? Share the link, everybody. Share the link. Each one of you, share the link to 20 people. So get on your Instagram, share the link. Twitter, share the link. In your Facebook Messenger, share the link. Africa, Kenya, Africa in the house. Good night. Durban Street. So we went from Kenya to Durban Street. Good night, Ms. Morrison, watching from Guyana. Good night to you, Ms. Cottigan. See somebody watching from Linden. Another person watching from Sousdai. Brooklyn in the house. Barbados in the house. South Ramvelt Park in the house. Share the link. Every one of you share the link to 20 other people. Watching from Buxton, watching from Cayman Islands, Barbados, Senegal. No, I don't believe that. Somebody just said they're watching from Senegal. I don't believe that. If you are watching from Senegal, take a photograph of your outside of your house and send it to me right now, because right now, watching from Madia. Wow. Good night, Madia. The person in Senegal. It should be after midnight there. So send me a photograph. Text us a photograph. Share the link, everybody. Share the link. Share the link. All right. So we have breaking news. Here is it. Breaking news. I'll see you on the other side of this news clip.
The customs authorities in Senegal have seized 3 containers of ammunition aboard the Guyana-flagged cargo ship. The authorities estimate that the 3 containers are worth an estimated $5.2 million. The discovery was made in the port of Dakar, but the customs agency did not specify the date it happened. Local reports suggest that the crew is Ukrainian. The authorities, however, have not confirmed this. According to specialist website Vessel Finder, the cargo ship had stopped in northern Italy and Spain's Canary Islands before arriving in the port of Dakar. The ship's final destination is unknown. In June 2021, Senegal's navy seized 8 tons of cannabis from a vessel off the coast of the country.
Right. There you have it. Earlier today, it was announced that in December, I think it's around December 28th, a ship by the name of Eolika, registered in Guyana. The government is now disputing that. It's irrelevant. Registered in Guyana, it's a Guyana flagship. Heading for Guyana after it came from Canary Islands, Spain, Italy. It docked in the port of Dakar. Docked in the port of Dakar in Senegal. Senegal is a West African country. And based on the government of Senegal, the ship's crew presented false information about the cargo, or misleading information or misleading documents. That's what the Senegalese government said. And they became suspicious and decided to search the ship. Share the link, everybody. This is important. Share the link. And when they searched the ship, lo and behold, they discovered over 5.2 million US dollars of arms. And the ship's next destination was Guyana. There were no ports of call scheduled between Dakar and Guyana. We were able to verify that today. So let me read you what the news is. Breaking news. Over $5.2 million in arms found in ship heading to Guyana. Senegal, Africa, law enforcement authorities have seized thousands of ammunition worth 2.5 million US dollars from a Guyana-registered ship named Iolika, which was headed to Guyana. The ship docked in Dakar, Senegal, West Africa for refueling when customs agents detected misleading paperwork and conducted a search and discovered the arms. The crew members, said to be Ukrainian, have been detained for questioning. They have been detained for questioning. Now, earlier today, CGID, my organization, issued a statement which called on the PP government to immediately disclose whether the arms were consigned to Guyana, and if it was, the intended use. We also said sources in the GDF and the Guyana Police Force have contacted us in writing. Listen to me very carefully. Sources, law enforcement sources in Guyana, security forces in Guyana, have written to us at CGID expressing alarm about the level at which firearms and ammunition are being acquired in Guyana. Now, let me give you some more information about this ship. I am seeing live, right in front of me, international data about the ship, which was updated 1 minute ago. So there's this international entity and a website called Vessel Finder. And if you want to find a vessel anywhere in the world, you can type in the information for the vessel, and you will see the vessel in live time, live. So currently, the vessel is positioned in Senegal, West Africa, at 14.67487 north and 17.42191. That's the positioning in terms of the world. West. It's AIS, which is an instrument that, like a compass, it tells you where the ship is heading to. Says the ship is en route to Port Georgetown, Guyana. It will be sailing at a speed of 0.1 knots and expected to arrive in Guyana on January 28th at midnight. The vessel Iolika, registration number IMO colon 8214968 MSSI 750512000 is a general cargo ship built in 1983, so it's 39 years old, and it is currently sailing under the flag of Guyana. Now, this story broke this morning. All day, we have been calling on the government of Guyana to say exactly, the government of Guyana could easily ask the Senegalese government, ask the International Maritime Organization for information about this shipment. It has to register this information with these two entities. The government has been silent. They have been silent. Now, after they have possibly cooked up a story, after they were able to calculate 4 and 4 and come up with 244, they put out a statement telling Guyanese 4 and 4 equals 244. PPP government, they're very skilled at that. The problem is they think they could be Trumpian, but they don't have the international intellectual fortitude to kerfuffle and kerfuffle Guyanese and to come up with a lie that is reasonable. So here is what the government just issued. Government just issued a statement tonight. They finally come up with a story. Finally come up with a story. So here is the government's story. Not the minister. Minister issued no statement. Minister of Works that is responsible for transportation and ocean and ocean traffic and air traffic and no, that's one of Jill. He's like, I ain't touching that. So they put the public servants to issue a statement. The public servants. An organization called the Maritime Administration Department. And hear what I say. They note with concern a recent arrest and detention by the Senegalese customs of motor vessel Eolica, purportedly bearing Guyana registration. The vessel is currently registered in Guyana. It is registered with international organizations as a flag carrier. Sorry, not a flag carrier. As a registered vehicle. It's a vessel under Guyana's flag. The government of Guyana certainly knows this. Hear what they say. You would think they would say, well, we contacted Senegal, this arms left X country, stopped in Y, Z, whatever country, and it is not consigned for Guyana. They're not even contesting that because they know if they do that, they'll be caught in a lie. So hear what they said. The registration of the vessel expired in December 2021. See no evil, hear no evil. I don't care what's on the ship. The registration expired. It says, MARD understands that a search of the said vessel unearthed illegal arms and ammunition on board. We all know that. That's not what we want to hear. We all know that. That's in the news all day. They're not breaking news to us. They went on. The vessel in question is not contained in the local ship's registry, and it is believed that the registration documents were issued by International Maritime Safety Agency of Guyana, an entity which the administration had severed all ties since August 2021. The same statement just, unless I am crazy, the statement just said that the ship was registered with Guyana, and they're purporting that the registration of the ship expired in December 2021. So if a ship was registered and the government of Guyana is acknowledging that the ship was registered, but they have this technical detail where the registration they claim expired, their words, expired. Then they come back and say, we ain't nobody's ship. It is not even on our list of vessels What nonsense is that? How could you put out such a statement? We're the attorneys for Mards. We understand, clearly you're saying that the registration purportedly is expired. But how could you simultaneously claim it is registered with the government, the registration is expired, but it is not on our list of vessels? Who's advising these clowns, these trench crappos, these jagabats? Who's advising them? So they're trying to obfuscate. They're trying to distance themselves from the ship is not registered. It's not on our list of ships. But in one paragraph above, you acknowledge that it was a registered ship in Guyana. But come down to the second paragraph, the registration disappeared. We have no knowledge of this vessel. Now, they're claiming some technical nonsense, but they severed ties with the Maritime Safety Agency of Guyana, and they subsequently notified all regional and international bodies and organizations that effective sometime they got no. We're not interested in this shit. What nonsense statement is this? Listen to folks. The vehicle, the vessel was registered in Guyana. The government is so dishonest, we don't even know if they're telling the truth. But let us give them that. Let us allow that fact. Let us stipulate on that it is probably, possibility exists that the registration expired. They went as far, like a guilty man, they're so defensive, to say that the ship was registered by a government, by an agency, which doesn't exist anymore, but whose function was transferred to MARD. Obviously, this is what the statement's saying. So who gives a rat's butt if the successor agency to MARD, M-A-R-D-A, whatever you call it, doesn't exist anymore? We don't care if the successor agency doesn't exist anymore. The new agency is responsible for that. It's the same responsibility. So what nonsense you're telling us? All right, let me button up this point, illustrate it to you. Prior to the PPP being installed in office on the 2nd of August, 2020, the current Ministry of Home Affairs was designated as the Ministry of Public Security. When the PPP took over, they changed the name of the ministry and they called it Ministry of Home Affairs, the traditional name. What the PPP is trying to tell us now is that something done by the Ministry of Public Security, which underwent a name change after they came into power, is not associated with the Ministry of Home Affairs. That's what they're trying to say. It's the same damn ministry. So twist it and turn it, whatever agency is responsible for registering vessels, they register the vessel. Call it MAD, MADRA, MARA, MARPA, MARHARP, whatever. It is the same responsibility of the government. So we're not interested in that. That's a smoke screen. That's a distraction. That's to create the impression among the Guyanese people that the vessel has nothing to do with Guyana. But let me give them that. Let me give them that. Let us allow them to run with that. That the vessel is no longer registered with Guyana, and or the vessel's registration with the Maritime Department, Administration Department, has expired. But there's one other detail that I just picked up. Even if this organization was registered by the International Maritime Safety Agency of Guyana, even if it was registered by that agency, the government is again, another contradiction, the government is saying here in this statement that they severed ties with the agency on August 13, 2021. Listen to me very carefully. The government is claiming that they severed ties with this agency on August 13, 2021. And I know I have to bring in my guest, the chairman of the PNC, who's sitting waiting patiently, but I just want to button up this point, Mr. Sherwin. I'll bring you in shortly. If the agency, the government said the agency, they severed ties with the agency on August 13, 2021. The said government is also admitting, however, that the registration of this ship expired in December. So obviously, after the government severed ties with this agency, the ship was still registered with MADRA or MARDA, the Maritime Administration, until December. So what are they trying to say? Nothing. It's just a distraction. But here's the point. We don't care when the ship was registered. We don't care when the registration expired. We don't care who registered it. We don't care why they registered it. We don't care which country it was registered in before. You know what we care about? Where the arms came from, where it was going, and who in Guyana was the designated consignee. Who in Guyana was responsible for picking up these arms? That's what we want to know, government of Guyana. We don't care about the technical details about what agency registered ship and what agency no longer registered ship as of August 2021. And that even though the ship was registered under an agency that ended its ties with the government in 2021, in August 2021, the ship continued to be registered until December 10th. Just over a month ago. What they didn't say is whether or not the registration was renewed. That could be missing. That could be missing. But that's not the point. Where these arms came from, who is the shipper, and who in Guyana was responsible for collecting it. That's what we want to know. Joining me now is the chairman of the PNC, Mr. Sherwin Holder, Member of Parliament. Sherwin, good night. Sorry it took so long to bring you in.
Good
but I
night,
really want to explain
it's okay.
that point.
I'm enjoying your discourse and the information that you're sharing with the public. So no problem, no sweat, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. And I want to let you know you have 12,000 people watching you.
Oh, excellent.
All across the different platforms, including YouTube. So based on what I just said, Sherwin, what's your reaction as a member of parliament, as a chairman of the PNC, to this disclosure we had today about these arms? 5.2 million US, that's to fight the whole Afghanistan war. What's your reaction?
We obviously need more information in this matter, but based on what is presented to us, based on those initial information, and it is very startling. 5 million US worth in ammunition. Um, I don't know if your viewers could understand what that means, but 5 million US dollars in ammunition is by no means something very light, something that could be treated in a light manner. And you rightfully said we should have known by now, at least coming from that statement from the government. I haven't seen the statement, by the way, but I'm listening to you, and I trust what you put out there is what they said. You would expect that you get certain specific information, who is the shipper, certain information the public would want to know. But the government of Guyana seem to have something to hide, as they usually do in these types of matter. I do not understand why they would seek to go down the road of trying to defend rather than become clean with this matter, say, lay out the facts. These are the facts. I don't want to hear about whether a ship was registered and the registration expired. My car registration expires, our cars, our road license and other documents expire ever so often. But does it mean that our vehicles are not operating in Guyana or associated with the country?
Or
No.
doesn't
So
exist?
why, it is very clumsy. I find it to be a very clumsy statement. If in fact that is what is there, I trust your word for it. But I find that to be very clumsy, one. And two, it demonstrates that they have something to hide or some interest to protect. And that is always the case with this government. Any substantive matter of this nature, whether it's drugs, whether it's guns, and other issues, they always try to defend rather than come clean with the Guyanese public and come clean with the international community. Just come clean with it. Let's know what the facts are. That's all the Guyanese people expect. That at minimum, that is what you expect from a government that is practicing good governance. That is one of the things you expect. They would come clean when it comes to information, the dissemination of information. But when you, instead of, look, this is $5 million, 5 million US dollars, Rickford. This is not 5 million Guyana dollars or anything of that sort. It's something very, very significant. And you would expect at minimum the the minister, what's his name, Juan Ejil, who's responsible, who has maritime administration, so under his in his mandate, or under his control, you would expect a statement coming from either him or maybe the Home Affairs Minister. You would expect between the two of them some statement, some serious statement. If they're serious about security in this country, then the Home Affairs Minister would have been making a statement. I still, it boggles the mind why they would take this route. You would allow the public servants to make such a statement. It is very, very puzzling. But
That's a
what I
little
want to
suspicious.
remind the audience that we've seen this kind of behavior from the PPP before. We had 23 years of it. We have seen these kind of shipments before, because as I recall, in 2015, just before the election, days before the election, you had cases where it was discovered, a cache of weapons and arms were discovered. I can clearly remember that, days before the 2015 election. And so this is nothing new to Guyana. One would have expected that in 2022, this government coming back to power by whatever means, but they're in government. And so you would expect that they would change this kind of style, this kind of governance style, this kind of behavior. But they're proving daily that they're right back where they were, or or worse, or even worse. So I'm not surprised, given the number of shipments of drugs we had. Also, we had record-breaking shipment of drugs as early as in August when they came in, and then we had a world record sometime later. And we know drugs and guns go together. And I would dare say that it goes along with the PPP government also. So it's nothing new to Guyana, but I tell you this, it is very worrying. As chairman of the PNC, I can tell you that we are following this matter. We would like to have more information on it. We will seek more information on it. But it's very worrying, it's very serious, and we'll keep our eyes on it.
Thanks. Well, our attorneys in Washington, CGID's attorneys in Washington, have made contact with the government of Senegal and the International Maritime Organization in Geneva. So we will let the public know what information we get from those two entities, the government and from the International Maritime Organization. Now, it is obvious that even this government has acknowledged that this is illegal arms. The main fact that false information was provided to the government of Senegal, law enforcement in Senegal, about the ship or its contents proves that it was illegal. And the fact that you have $5 million worth of arms that is not part of any military or paramilitary organization authorized by a government, it's illegal. The fact that the government of Guyana has said in its statement that the arms are illegal. The government initially of Senegal said the ship was bound for Guyana, and the person we spoke to said if the ship is bound for Guyana, it therefore means that it's logical to conclude that the arms were going to Guyana. Now, we don't know that, let me establish that, but it's a fair assessment. And the fact that the government has not denied, the government has not denied that this shipment was for Guyana. They have acknowledged, in fact, that the vessel was bound for Guyana. Does it concern you that the government of Guyana has put out a statement where millions of US dollars in arms are scheduled to come to Guyana, consigned for Guyana? And the government is just calmly saying, well, we have a little concern about some ship that is not registered anymore, and we're trying to get information. I mean, this is a very serious issue. At minimum, it shines the international spotlight of arms smuggling, which is often connected to terrorism, to Guyana. And the government has shown no concern about that. What's as a member of parliament, how can you get what mechanism there is in the parliament for you to get more information? And let me say this as well. The government person that we contacted in Senegal said that this ship was held since December. There's no way in the world that a ship with arms, $5 million worth of arms, held in December, bound for Guyana, where law enforcement in Senegal would not have notified the government of Guyana. Your views?
To answer your first question, Rickford, there is a mechanism in place that we can post questions to whichever minister we want to post whatever question. But given the partisan nature of the parliament, of the speaker, of the government, I would doubt that you would get any sort of answer from them on this matter, and even in a timely manner. I'm certain that you wouldn't get it. Based on my experience at the parliament over the last year plus, you wouldn't get anything from them in the parliament. Some ministers have boldly stepped up to say that, they refer you back to something. They don't say anything. And in other cases, you have the speaker maneuvering with, using whatever rule or whatever little leeway he has to, stymie anything that we try to put to them. So I have no confidence in the parliament in getting anything whatsoever on this matter from parliament. But as a party, we will pursue this matter in every avenue that we can garner information and we can get on top of it. As I said before, it's a very important matter, and it's something that we have our eyes on, and so we will not just push it under the rug, allow it to go that easily. We will pursue it, and we will gather the necessary information, and we will make a comprehensive statement once we have the kind of information on the matter. For the time being, we are monitoring what is going on, and we would call on the government to make a proper statement. Let the minister come out and give us certain basic facts that we know that they have. As you said, there is no way that such a big bust could have been made and the government of Guyana were not contacted. If you understand how the maritime system works and how these agencies work, these international agencies, they must have contacted the Guyana government. They must have contacted the relevant agencies. So the onus is on the government. They have a responsibility as a government to share whatever information that is there with the public. They have that responsibility, and the people of Guyana expect nothing less from this administration. But as already established, we know who the PPP are. We know how they operate. So I'm not surprised, and we are not surprised as a party with their behavior, especially in regards to this matter. Anything with drugs and ammunition, they are very tight-lipped, and eventually those matters, are swept under the rug, and you don't get anything from it. But it's something that we would pursue, and once we have enough information on the matter, I think the party would then make a formal statement on it and take a serious position on it. But we're looking on and we're following it very, very closely.
Um, as we're in this round, the police force. There's concern not only in Guyana but internationally about the credibility of the Guyana police force. Not the whole force, some in the leadership of the force that take political instructions and carry out a political vendetta. When you do a broad assessment of law enforcement in Guyana, and you see how biased they are, if you're from a certain category of the population, you're not prosecuted when you commit crimes. If you're from a certain political affiliation, you brandish weapons all about the place, shoot up weapons, you're not arrested, there's no law enforcement. But if you are Black or Amerindian or an East Indian that don't support the PPP, you're arrested for calling people names like Trench Crapo and other foolish names. You're arrested for made-up crimes if they just want to attack you and persecute you. We saw recently the High Court ruled that this transaction where a piece of land was purchased at Peters Hall was legal and legitimate. The Chief Justice ruled that. But the government arrested the CEO of NISIL who supervised that transaction. They arrested the attorney, James Bond, who represented his client in that transaction. And although the Chief Justice has ruled that the transaction was legitimate and that the government cannot seize the land from the people, these charges against James Bond and Calvin Heath London remain. And then you have a situation where the government, during a visit by some politicians from Georgia with some business people, asked them if they could frame me to get me arrested. I mean, you have a visiting delegation of politicians, Black politicians from Georgia, Jim Crow, Georgia. And you have the government with the gall, persons in the government, asking them if they could frame Rickford Burke to get him arrested so he could stop exposing them in Guyana. What is your view as a member of parliament, as a young Afro-Guyanese man, about the way the police force is conducting business as a vendetta squad for the PPP?
All right. Thank you, Rickford. I am very much disappointed as a young man. I must say to you, I grew up in the 90s and into the 2000s. We're in 2022, and I'm very much disappointed that in 2022 we can still have government behaving in such a manner in terms of race relations, in terms of discriminating based on race. I come from a multi-ethnic background. My mother being Indo, well, mostly or largely Indo-Guyanese, and father being Afro-Guyanese. So I think I have a good idea of the political divide. And so in that context, I'm very much disappointed at, in 2022, we can have a government behaving in such a manner and the population will not, I equally blame, to some extent, I blame all of us because we allow it to happen. We allow this kind of behavior to fester. In this modern era, we should not allow any government whatsoever to operate, especially in the context of Guyana, a nation of six races, and operating in that manner. But it's very clear to me that this government, the modus operandi of this PAP government is one where you would discriminate against certain races, or even, well, any race. As a matter of fact, some more than others. It depends on whether you oppose them or whether that has to be taken into context also. But that is how the PAP operates, and I'm very much disappointed as a young man. I had a vision of, or I have a vision rather, of a different Guyana, and I intend as the PNC chair to push that kind of policy. But I must condemn the PPP for this act and how they operate, and of course they use the police force. They must use um, some kind of whatever they can use to enforce this policy, this policy that they have, of one that is of discrimination, etc. And so they find it fitting to use the police force, the armed forces, to execute that that policy that they have. They always use it as a tool of repression, a tool to silence people, especially groups that are vulnerable, that could be considered as vulnerable, or any minority group, or any group, as a matter of fact, which attempts to sound their voices, against them, or sound their voices against poor governance, or discrimination, or whatever they are do whenever they are going in the wrong direction. So I hope that the people of Guyana, as I said before, I think we all as Guyanese need to step up, regardless to whether we're Afro-Guyanese, regardless to whether we're Indo-Guyanese, indigenous Guyanese, whatever the race is, whatever the religion is, we as Guyanese need to step up and oppose this administration for this kind of behavior that they have been practicing. We had it for 23 years, Rickford, and we know where our country went during those 23 years. I believe that most Guyanese are clear in their heads that this kind of race issue that we have in Guyana is part of the major problem that we have in terms of stymieing our development. And now we have oil, and we can only expect this thing to get worse. We can only expect, and we're already seeing it. We're already seeing this blatant kind of disrespect, this blatant kind of disregard for the rule of law. And you know, there's a host of things that I can speak on that is happening in this country. And but specifically coming back to your point in terms of the police force, you know, we've got to step up. We've got to step up and do everything that is necessary to oppose them and to hold them accountable and to remove them, ultimately remove them from government, because they have proven to be the same PVP that we knew for 23 years, who would have committed or would have been part and parcel of the execution of thousands of Afro-Guyanese, young Afro-Guyanese. I know that is a topic that you like to stress on ever so often. Is the same PVP that continue to use the police force in ways that they have done during those 23 years to stymie protests, to have them do their bidding, their execution bidding, and all that those type of things. So we've got to step up to the plate as Guyanese. I'm happy that persons like yourself and other activists are sounding their voices. We in the PNC will certainly stand up against these atrocities, and we encourage all Guyanese, whether you're Afro, whether you're Indo, whatever you are, we encourage you to take a stand at this point. The future of this generation and future generations will depend on it. We have oil now, and you know, I worry every day as to where our country is going and what would become of us if we allow this regime to continue to act in the way they are acting. So it's very important that we take a stand as a nation.
Um, Piggybacking right off of what you said, I want to go straight to Dartmouth. We have a situation where young businessman ORIN Boston was shot and killed by the police. Shortly after that incident, well, first of all, the government lied about the cause of death. They said that he was engaged in a confrontation with the police when he was shot. We know that's not true. They've just broke into his house and shot him in his bed. So somebody sent them there. They went there with a motive. They didn't knock on his door saying, "Mr. Boston, you're wanted, come outside." They didn't, you know, announce their presence with a loudspeaker from a police car or a bullhorn or anything saying there's a police operation. Come outside, you're wanted. Nothing. They just went into his home secretly, broke in and killed him. Left him to die outside in the yard, and then attempted to pretended that they were taking his body to a hospital for treatment when they know he would have died because he would have bled to death. They left him there deliberately. That's murder. And everybody in Guyana who knows the law knows that's murder. And they know that based on the statements, that the witness statements that we've seen all over the press, the account of the wife, etc., the ballistics, the evidence, physical evidence, we know, and as Nigel Hughes, as the attorney for the family, has said, it is not the responsibility of the prosecutor to determine, to weigh the truthfulness or credibility of witness statements. They're supposed to look at the witness statements and charge based on what the law requires, which is murder. They have not done that. But immediately, within, I would say, a few months of that shooting, a police source sent us information at CGID with the name of the shooter, expressing concern that this matter is being covered up. We in turn released the name of the shooter and a photograph of the shooter sometime about 3 months ago. So we released Sherwin Peters' name. And then even after that police officer sent, the police source sent us that information, several other people, including police officers, sent the information. So it was well known. It was well known who the shooter was. It was well known within the police force that they were trying to cook up a story to cover up this murder. The people of Dartmouth had a protest The government's approach to protests is to shoot people, send in law enforcement, shut you down. They're not concerned about the victims. They're not concerned about the feelings of these people. All they're concerned is that there must be no protests against us. We're the rulers of this country. There must be no protest whatsoever against us. That's all they're concerned. So they charged the young man with manslaughter, not murder. The residents of Dartmouth are upset. They began a protest again. They blocked the streets. People block the streets in democratic societies every day. The responsibility of police is to work along with the community, to allow the community to express themselves and to carry out their constitutional rights. They sent in police last night and soldiers. I got a call from a resident who was asked me to listen to the gunshots they were firing, going house to house asking who are the organizers. They want to arrest the organizers of the protest when they took about 8 months to actually arrest the killer. As the parliamentary representative of Region 2, what is your reaction to the fact that the police is not working along with the community? This is not community policing. This is a police state where they're shooting and arresting and checking homes for organizers of the protest like they're doing in Iran or Russia. Are we there? Are we an autocratic society where the government doesn't want protest or dissent? And as a parliamentary representative, what will you do and your party do to make sure that the voices of the people are represented and that the people express their civil rights to protest against the government?
Thank you, Rickford. I want to address the first part of your statement where you explained. You said a mouthful there. Trust me, you've said a lot, and we could analyze that bit, piece by piece there. But you touched something very early in your statement to say that the police lied. I would have said to the police commissioner very early when he visited Dartmouth during the first protest, and I said to him that he should withdraw that statement because the evidence and the facts in this matter does not suggest that there was any struggle or anything whatsoever. In fact, what it did, the evidence pointed to a force coming in, barging into Boston's home and shooting him dead right in his bed. And those are clear facts. And so from the inset, we need to understand that the police tried to cover this matter. And one would think or one would study why is it that they tried to cover up this matter. Now, when it gets to the government level, you would think that I understand police trying to cover up for police, but what I don't understand is the government trying to cover up the police. That to my mind is it's a bigger question, and that is what has raised a level of suspicion. It has put a dark cloud over this case because, as you said, they took months and months and months for us to see any movement in this case. And that is what upsets the family, and that is what caused the community to become upset. And they staged this next protest. And there are a number of other reasons why we had this second protest again. And largely it's due to the actions of the police and or non-action in some cases, and the action or non-action of the or inaction of the government. The father expressed to me that he had a problem with getting information from the government, from the minister, and from the police. They're not feeding the family with any information. The family was very annoyed with the fact that the police officer who they claimed to be under close arrest for so many months was actually not under close arrest. He was going out to parties based on the information that they have. He was going out to a lot of social functions, and so it was business as usual for this person. And as you rightfully expressed, the shooter was known. There are so many other statements that could pin this thing as a murder committed. And so within a week, lawyers, experienced lawyers are saying that within a week, this thing could have, this case could have gone to the court. Let's give it 2 weeks. Let's give it 3 weeks. But instead, you had a government prolonging this issue for several months. And so it raises a lot of questions there. And at this point, I must say, we are no closer to knowing what was the motive for Boston's murder. We are no closer to knowing who ordered this operation. We are no closer to knowing why this elite squad had to go to Boston's home. We don't have a shred of anything whatsoever explaining those matters. We are no closer in understanding why is it that they had to go 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We are no closer in understanding why is it that this elite squad that had this house surrounded, why didn't they say, Mr. Boston, you're surrounded, we have your house surrounded, and you should come out. Nothing, whatever you intend to search for, if it's a search indeed, that was the intention. There's no way that he could have gone. Anything
Do you
could have
think it was?
left
Do you
the
think it was an
premises.
execution?
And so all you had to say was come out with your hands in the air. They would have known that they were underage, very small children in that home sleeping. They would have known that you had a female there. What's the approach? What's the motive? Why would you go in there with guns blazing and then shoot Mr. Boston, drag his body outside, don't explain anything to the wife or anyone present there at the moment, pretend to conduct a search, and all these are pertinent questions, unanswered questions. And so the people of Dartmouth, in my view, were right to exercise their democratic right of protest. In some parts of the world, you would have seen the entire country behind this thing. You would have seen a great uprising. In a matter like this, we saw what happened in the George Floyd case there in the US. We saw what happened in a number of other cases. But in Guyana, you have a government that is using the police force in a way that is instilling fear in the population, and so it is difficult to have mass-based protests. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but there is some hesitancy, at least for the time being, in terms of people coming out and protest, and then they would use another dimension. They put another dimension to it. They put COVID in the COVID rules, and put these fear in people. So there are a number of things that would stymie protest, but that's the fact in the matter. And the people were, I think it's justified. The protest is justified. They have a right to do it. And they've been doing it in a largely peaceful manner. It's only when the police get aggressive towards the persons, the protesters there, then they will trigger a reaction. And so I'd say the people of Dartmouth must stand up for the rights. The Boston family has a right to vent their frustration because they're not getting anywhere with it, and it doesn't seem, in their view, it doesn't seem like justice is anywhere around the corner, or in fact, if they would ever get justice. Now, as a parliamentarian, how would we deal with it? I've expressed to you that in Parliament over the last year, we've not really made any significant step in that regard. So clearly our parliamentary agenda has got to become one that is more robust, one that forces their hand in parliament, forces the hand of the speaker, and forces the hand of the government in parliament. I know for sure that we can do it. We can get it done. There are means. I wouldn't telegraph our strategy, but I know for sure that it can be done at the parliamentary level. But I am of the firm belief that you must have actions in parliament and also extra parliamentary actions wherever we would not take protests off the table. We know fully well that the only language the PPP government understands is protest action. It doesn't mean that we're all about protest action, but wherever we see the need for protest action, we are not taking it off the table because um, if if it requires protest to change a particular action or to reverse certain steps being taken by this government, and we're already seeing these little steps, or I wouldn't say little, we're seeing huge steps towards a dictatorial administration, and so we need to have everything on the table to deal with them. And protest is certainly one of the actions. There are a number of other actions which can be taken. We need to seriously engage the international community and mobilize them against this PUP government. We need to have a proper PR system that exposes this PUP regime, both at the local level and at the international level. So we have, as a party, we have our work cut out for us. I wouldn't telegraph our strategy, but largely those positions are well-known positions. It is for us as a party and as a coalition to step up our game to deal with this administration, and step up we will. So I want to put them on notice that this is not a PNC that will sit idly by and take whatever they want to push down our throats. We will definitely engage them. We are prepared to engage them and prepared to mobilize all of Guyana against them in whatever policies we disagree with, especially when they would use the police force to target us, to target minority groups, and to operate in a way that they would suppress the voices, that speak up against their dictatorial ways.
Obviously, I'm just this. I'm going to ask you like three questions because people need clarity. See some people asking some questions. Obviously, this appeared to have been an execution. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with it. When you examine everything that has occurred step by step, and when you examine the behavior of the government, the reaction of the government, one would conclude that this clearly wasn't an execution. It was a clear case of an execution. The mere fact that we took several months to deal with this matter when you had all the evidence before you hadn't to look for the shooter. You hadn't to look for the shooter. These unanswered questions, we still don't know why is it that this elite squad had to go to Boston's home.
Let me ask you that. Let me ask you about that. The police force or the government has not said why they went to his home. He was not involved in any crime. The government has not said he was wanted for anything. They did not find anything illegal in his home, and they have given absolutely no explanation. I think this is what is causing the anger. This government feels that whenever they shoot somebody and kill them, they don't have to give, if the person is black, they don't have to give an explanation. So that is angering people. They have not said anything. And you correctly pointed out, they have not said why the SWAT team went to his home. They have not said anything about their intelligence or an investigation. As a matter of fact, the police commissioner has said there was not an investigation of him that he was aware of. Nothing illegal was found in his house. They have not given any explanation why they went to his home. And so, in the absence of information, people will speculate. And based on the evidence, the speculation seemed to be correct. They went there based on some complaint from some East Indian businessman that supports the PPP, that he was threatening their business by being competitive, and next thing you know, he's dead. That's what people in Dartmouth are telling me. That's the word on the street. And this government feels absolutely no compulsion to present an explanation for this man's death or why the police was at his home in the first place. Do you think that we're in for a repeat or several repeat of this kind of action in Guyana?
Rickford, you're spot on with what you're saying there. There is absolutely no explanation, and I believe that the government they still have an opportunity. They have an opportunity to explain to the public what exactly transpired. And I'm looking at it at this standpoint. I mean, we've explained that we don't know the motive. We don't know, why this SWAT team was sent there. I believe in a statement or some press conference or some statement by the Commissioner of Police, we got the sense, or not even the sense, I think he said it, that he was not aware of the operation. He was not aware. These things are pointing to an execution. The secrecy behind it, the cloud behind it, the lack of any interest whatsoever by the government, anything forceful. They're not doing anything forceful or anything that would suggest that they want to reveal the truth in this matter. So it points directly, in my view and in the view of many others, that this clearly was an execution. The president was in the region. Just, I think, the week before that, we know that there were meetings with the private sector. I'd want to call them the business community. Let me not say the private sector, but the business community. And there are a number of rumors, there are a number of theories as to what transpired there. The onus is on the government to bring some clarity to that. But instead, what they're doing, they're just filibustering. They're just,
I think it's not filibuster. I think they're contemptuous. I think they're sticking their fingers.
I would agree. Filibuster is too much of a, giving credit to them.
They put the finger to the doctor and say, "Well, go to hell."
They're in contempt for the family. They're in contempt for the community. They're in contempt for the people of Guyana. They're showing, it's contemptuous behavior. They don't believe that they owe it to the Guyanese people to explain what exactly happened there. You would imagine that a government, whether you had a rogue police, if it was a case of some rogue police or something, you would imagine that the government would do all within their power and authority to bring justice to the family. Irfan said that he would leave no stone unturned. Well, it doesn't appear to me that they're turning any stones whatsoever.
Two final questions on this. Are you concerned that the police force will do something deliberately to damage this case and to sabotage the case? So there's not a conviction?
Absolutely. I believe not only I share that view, but the people of Dartmouth, the family, and many, a wide cross-section of Guyanese, given the history of the PPP. And I want to make this very clear. There are good police officers who are professional, who intend to do what is right and to do their jobs in a professional manner. The problem is the PPP government. That's the problem. The problem is the way and the style of the PPP government. They victimize you if you don't follow whatever instruction they pass down. They will victimize those police. So the police largely has to follow whatever instructions they pass down. And definitely it is in my view that they will do whatever they have to do. We're already seeing it. They already had 5 months or how many months delay in this matter. They've already cooked it up and made it into a manslaughter charge rather than a murder charge. And so there's no doubt, there's absolutely no doubt that they will try to prolong this matter, whether it's 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. And in the end, there will be no justice for that family. That is how the family is thinking right now. That is the general feeling. We've seen it happen in so many other cases. Peter Headley case where the police shot him in that car. You had the Henry Boyd. You had so many other cases in the short time that the PPP has returned to power. And so Boston case is not a case that is very different from any of those other cases, except that the people of Dartmouth has launched a protest in that regard. In the other cases, you didn't really had any significant level of protest. But in this case, you have some level of protest which is bearing, some kind of pressure, which is bringing some kind of pressure to the government. And even with that pressure, even in the face of that pressure, they are still showing contempt. They're still doing exactly whatever they want to do. So again, there's no doubt that they will try to do whatever it takes to ensure that they derail the course of justice in this matter. I do not believe, I would like to say that the Boston family will get justice. I don't want to damp their hopes, but the writing is already on the wall and hence they protest.
With regard to the protests and the police stopping the protests, using using COVID restrictions. Now, I have always held the view that constitutional fundamental protections that are enshrined in the Constitution are paramount to ordinances or rules that are promulgated for some particular reason. And so you mentioned that they're using the COVID restrictions to restrict protest. I happen to believe that the constitutional provisions take precedent over the COVID restrictions. They are regulations promulgated pursuant to statute. Constitutional rights are enshrined in the Constitution and protected. They cannot be infringed on. Do you think it's time the Guyanese people change their strategy, and whenever the government sends the police to stop protests, they should go to court and get an injunction and assert their constitutional rights?
Certainly, that would should be considered. Every option should remain on the table, and the courts, that option of going to the court certainly should be looked at. I agree with you. I'm no lawyer, but I know that any regulation or that kind of law that you try to impose, it cannot take precedence over what is written in the Constitution. That is quite clear. So I don't see the public adhering to that or following that. This is a serious matter. This is murder committed by an arm of the state. This is worse than a thief barging into your home and committing a similar act. It's an arm of the state. Those that are sworn to serve and protect the people. And so when you have a case like that, you expect that there would be outrage. You expect that there would be protests at minimum to ensure that it does not reoccur. And so I agree with you fully, I think we need to look at the option of going to the courts. Of course, you have the situation where persons on, especially under this PUP administration, where the people generally share the view that the PVP arm is so long that they're manipulating even the courts they're reaching into the courts and people don't have the confidence in the courts, they don't have the confidence in the police, they don't have the confidence in the government, frankly speaking, and that is the state of affairs in this country at the moment, and it's
Well, when that
something that.
happens, when people lose confidence in all the institutions of the state, you end up with a failed state. Let me ask you finally, we run out of time. Let me ask you finally, my final question is, you were recently elected as the chairman of the PNC. I congratulate you on that election. You're a young man. Lots of us have called for young people to be accelerated into the leadership of the party because the party had so long neglected and isolated its young talent, young leaders. So now we have a young chairman. What is your vision for the party, and how do you think? I mean, it's an unfair question, but I just thought I should ask. I'm pretty sure you've thought of it. How do you think the party can strategize to build an even wider coalition than just with the AFC and the 6 parties in the APNU, but how the party can build a wider coalition with the rest of the society, especially now that there's so much discontent. And also, we have a situation where you mentioned it in Parliament, where PPP is trying to dominate all sections of the society, all aspects of the state, in Parliament, out of Parliament, everywhere. What's the strategy for dealing with that as a political party? So there's 2 questions there.
Yeah,
Take it
let
away.
me deal with the last one first. With the PVP dominating, all aspects, whether it's parliament or all aspects of governance. For certain, we've got to resist it, and part of it, I wouldn't telegraph our strategy, but of course, part of it has to involve the Guyanese people. We cannot be any longer dormant or sort of dormant party. We've have to become more active. We have to engage civil society. We have to engage the international community. We have to let them understand clearly what is happening in Guyana, and how it challenges or it affects their interests. That's for the international community. And also for Guyanese, we've got to engage civil society and make them very proactive in this fight against this creeping dictatorship that we are seeing. We have a number of strategies we are working out in terms of parliament. So I wouldn't want to telegraph them, but I would say to you that we have a strategy going forward, and in the coming weeks, we would expect to begin to move that agenda forward. So the Guyanese public could expect to see a stronger opposition and a coalition that will rigorously oppose this PUP government, expose them, and ultimately remove them from office. That is our ultimate agenda. In terms of me being the chairman and our strategy with the coalition, there are a number of things that we're looking at. Of course, in my view, as the party chairman, we've got to fix our house first before we think about. We are thinking about the coalition, so we're multitasking, but it is important that we fix whatever issues, whatever matters we have outstanding within our own home. So we have to fix our party and get it to where we want it, largely first, and then we get to the coalition aspect. But we have to in terms of the parties that we have now, we have to have a mutual understanding, mutual respect. We have to have clear principles, clear, a clear working relation or a clear strategy or a clear agreement rather between coalition partners. So we have to fix whatever issues exist there between the coalition for a start. But we are looking to expand the coalition. We have an open policy. It doesn't mean that we will accept any anybody that
Any fly by
says
night, anybody?
they're a political party and they want to join the coalition. We got to see, your structure, your membership, your following, and so we can draft you in. But you don't have to only be a political party. It can be some arm of civil society, or so. So there is a place for everyone in the coalition, but we're working up some strategies. But as I told you, first we got to fix our internal whatever issues might be hanging there. We need to fix it so that persons out there who are interested, and there are a lot. I am aware that there are a lot of persons who have been indicating that they want to be a part of the coalition, whether singly or individually or as an organization coming in to join. There are partners that left the coalition that we want to see rejoin the coalition also. So we're in discussions with those parties. So I see on the horizon a broader coalition. I don't want to. I know I'm really being limited, but I don't want to telegraph all our strategy. I'm careful not to
Understood.
telegraph
Understood.
certain things on your show at this time. But I want you to
Understood.
be assured that we're working up a good strategy in terms of the coalition. Internally, we're changing the face of the PNC. You mentioned in terms of youth. Myself being youth, I think we have a number of youth there on the executive. As principal officer, myself being chair, and other young people, and also within the executive, we have a number, largely young people. So I think young people are now looking to the party and seeing a reflection of themselves and seeing a place that for them, as against going with this government that is showing that they are a walking dictatorship and everything that goes with that. And so we're working up a strategy for youth. I must say we have made a lot of steps. A lot of steps. I don't want to call them baby steps. I think we've made some huge steps in terms of rearranging Congress Place and making it a place that people want to come to. And we have an open door policy. Myself, the leader, we're running a democratic party where the views of every member of our executive is viewed as important and has weight. And that's the style of governance, party governance, that we're inculcating, we're practicing at the moment. And that's the way we see our party going forward. So you could expect a PNC that is growing and enlarging, and you could expect a coalition by extension that will grow in the weeks and months to come. And you could expect a strong party and a strong coalition that will effectively oppose this government and depose them. I am certain of that.
Oppose and depose.
I'm certain of that.
Oppose and depose. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Sherwin, it's been such a pleasure talking to you for the first time on the conversation. Come again.
Yeah, thanks, Rickford. Thanks for having me, and thanks for your viewers. And I will come again.
Good, thanks. I know the hour's late, so it's now minutes to 12 in Guyana, but you stayed up late to be with us. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yes, thanks.
And thanks to the viewers. As usual, you're always there to support and to view our objective here with this program is to bring information to you. So see you next Sunday on another edition of Conversation with Rickford Burke. Have a good night.